1,000 people behind them. They have people that are committed to their neighbors, committed to integrity, committed to justice, and committed to getting the truth. We will not back down from it. Among those that won't back down from it is the person who I'm about to introduce. His ward is right on the borderline of where this particular shooting happened, and that is Councilmember Jason Chavez. Would you please give him a warm round of applause?
Good morning. My name is Jason Chavez, and I have the privilege of representing Ward 9 on the Minneapolis City Council, where ICE murdered Renee Good. I want to let you all know that our entire community is mourning because of the inhumane tactics of ICE separating our families, forcing people back into the shadows, and the pure brutality by Immigration Customs Enforcement. The videos that we have all seen, yourself included, does not match the false narrative from the federal government. In fact, you could hear the words, "I am pulling out," moments before ICE decided to take the life of Renee Good. She was a mother, a wife, and a beloved community member, not a domestic terrorist. I'm calling on Trump's FBI to allow the Minnesota BCA to have access to all the information so an independent investigation can occur. It is important and critical to our community to have a sense of trust in this process by having an independent investigation to present to the county attorney so that adequate charges can be made. But most importantly, I am here on behalf of my entire community, echoing the calls to arrest, to prosecute and fire this ICE agent who murdered Renee Good, and to hold those accountable complicit in this crime. What has descended upon Minneapolis and in this state is not the American dream. It is not what the American dream is about. Our immigrant neighbors are here to work. They're here to provide for their family and to achieve prosperity. Instead, what we are seeing in Minneapolis and across this state is ICE kidnapping our family, following folks driving to work and kidnapping them, following people as they're heading to school or to the daycare, picking up our immigrant neighbors from bus stops. While neighbors are struggling to afford groceries, they're picking them there as well. I've personally been on the streets since this first happened, and I've seen too many ICE agents kidnap our neighbors from their cars. And to that, we're always going to condemn it. And as we continue to ask for justice for Renee Good, we're going to ask our community members to stay on alert. As a proud son of Mexican immigrants, I ask Minneapolis and Minnesota to rise up, to do everything in their power to defend our immigrant neighbors, to continue to observe the illegal actions by ICE, to blow your whistle when you see immigration enforcement in your neighborhood, to get trained on rapid response so you can educate your neighbors on what is happening on your block, to provide rides to your immigrant neighbors who need to go to work, who need to get groceries, who need to see their children come back home safely, to help your immigrant neighbors move their cars during snow emergencies, because what we are seeing is many of our immigrant neighbors being picked up simply by moving their cars. To help your neighbors take out the trash, because there are many reports of neighbors being kidnapped while they are taking their trash out. To support our immigrant-owned businesses, to drop off groceries to our children, mothers, fathers, our community members that are starving, and to let know that ICE is not welcome in this city and in this state. And lastly, we're here to demand justice for Renee Good.
My name is Aisha Gomez. I serve as the state representative for District 62A, the south side of Minneapolis, where our beloved community member was murdered this week. I'm so grateful to Councilmember Chavez for explaining this moment to us and calling on us as a community into this struggle that our neighbors are facing. With respect to the investigation into this shooting, there's really only one question in front of us. Are we going to design a process that's legitimate or not? In 2020, the state legislature created the Force Investigations Unit after the murder of George Floyd, which happened right around the corner, 7 or 8 blocks away from where Renee Good was murdered. This unit was established after a long process of looking into what are the best practices when there is an officer-involved shooting. We learned a lot about this in 2020 in Minneapolis, unfortunately. One of the things that we learned is that if you actually are interested in public safety, if you actually are interested in the legitimacy of a law enforcement force in your community, then you must be invested in accountability, in transparency, and in fair investigations when bad things happen. That's right. And so that's the question in front of us. Do we want a legitimate investigation that pulls in the professionals of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension who are trained to do this, who have done this over and over, who have the kind of local connections and local legitimacy that the FBI could just never have because they don't have that kind of presence here? Or are we going to have a discredited farce of an investigation? And so as a group of elected representatives who are deeply invested in the safety of our community, and thus in the legitimacy of these processes, we call on the FBI to share the evidence with the Force Investigations Unit at the BCA and have this be a legitimate and trusted investigation. Thank you.
I'm Hennepin County Commissioner Irene Fernando, but you can call me Commish. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a very, very proud child of immigrants. I'm the youngest woman to ever serve on the Hennepin County Board. I'm the first Filipino American elected in the state, and I'm Hennepin's first board chair of color in our 174-year history. My heart is grieving for Renee and her family. This is an unimaginable and preventable loss. I honor Renee's humanity and life, and I acknowledge the deep pain felt by her loved ones and neighbors. The taxpayer-funded actions and harm we are experiencing right now are inhumane, unlawful, and unconstitutional. United States due process means that justice is pursued through legal action, credible investigation, and courts, not through guns, murder, and violence on our streets. There's jarring footage that show ICE agents stage at elementary school bus stops and going door to door. Often agents are unwilling to provide a badge number, a warrant, or any legal documentation. This is a terrifying reality for Minnesotans since we are still grieving Speaker Hortman's assassination due to the impersonation of a police officer at her doorstep. Our community has experienced a national spotlight with law enforcement shootings, which required significant change and reform on how such cases are examined, investigated, and communicated to the public. It is critical for our communities to have some sense of trust in the process in order to meet the standards set by Minnesota law and resident expectations. This is why we're calling on the federal government to cooperate with a joint or independent investigation conducted by the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. The thought is that they would do this together, but if for some reason that is not possible, please allow shared evidence for a parallel investigation. The Minnesota BCA is the only nonpartisan state agency equipped to investigate robustly and effectively, in part due to their establishment of the Force Investigations Unit. They have the expertise, they are equipped, and they are ready to pursue justice on behalf of Minnesotans. Alongside their own investigation, the BCA, alongside the federal investigation, the BCA can and should conduct this parallel process, which means full access to the information, evidence, and case file. Because in Minnesota, we expect that investigations are completed by the BCA to then get reviewed by the county attorney to determine if the use of force was appropriate or not. We have a process here to review force. We have full trust in this process and in the county attorney to do the objective review needed based on the facts and Minnesota law. The idea that our federal government would not fully cooperate with the BCA in an investigation creates even more mistrust among our community members, because we know federal investigations are very rarely released to the public. Our justice system and we are here together to ask for and request full cooperation by the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office to provide full access to the BCA so they can conduct a thorough, complete, and independent investigation to determine if the use of force was justified or requires additional accountability. Last and certainly not least, just directly to residents, our neighbors, our friends, our family members, our coworkers, our kids. I am very, very proud of our unrelenting courage, compassionate caregiving, and a fierce resilience towards justice. It feels very hopeful and very fearful, but together we can and must resist the urge to give in to the numbness that comes from this type of attention. Because numbing our pain might also numb our shared humanity. And it is only through the collective wisdom in our bodies and ancestral storylines that we will get through to the other side of this. Together, we come from powerful, loving, and resourceful stories. Our cultures and ancestors have found ways to construct creativity from pain, joy from fear, and hope from oppression, and we will do so again today. Ultimately, I do believe that our shared humanity and love for one another will prevail, but that only occurs when we all rise with one another. Leading with integrity, caring for one another with dignity, and fighting for our shared humanity without apology. I and we remain in this fight with you, speaking our truths and leading towards accountability and justice. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I am State Senator Zaida Mohammed. I think I speak on all of my colleagues, especially colleagues in the Senate, when I say we are here on behalf of Renee Nicole Good, a beloved wife, mom, daughter, and neighbor who was needlessly and brutally taken from us in Minneapolis streets on Wednesday morning. That night, thousands of us gathered at the site to grieve the loss and to mourn Renee and to rally for justice. Everything I have learned about Renee, about her humanity and compassion, tells me she would have been there with us, speaking truth to power and turning pain into poetry. This federal government has given us too many reasons to not trust them to do the right thing. Their thousands of agents were sent here under a false pretense in the minutes after an agent, and the minutes after an agent's shot, they refused to render aid. And their leaders have used every opportunity since this tragedy to lie about the facts, to lie about Renee, and to blame her for her own murder. There were many witnesses to Renee's murder, and the horrific videos we have seen make us all witnesses. This was a crime in broad daylight, and the attempt to cover it up is another. Renee is owed the same rights we promise to every American: due process, respect, and truth. We know what we saw, and everything short of a full and an honest investigation is an insult to her memory. Everything she stood for, and everything we stand for as Americans. At 10 o'clock today, we will honor the life and legacy of Renee Nicole Good with a moment of silence. Every moment before that and every moment after that, we will honor Renee by remembering our neighbor and calling for justice at the top of our lungs. And with that, we will take questions.
Josh Einiger from MS Now. Yesterday, at her event in New York, the Homeland Security Secretary was actually asked specifically about the information sharing and the ability for locals to take some sort of investigative role here. And her answer was basically, well, they refuse to investigate illegal immigration, so why should we let them do that? I guess I'm wondering, if that continues to be the answer to public pressure, are there legal remedies at the city, the state, the county attorney level that would allow an investigation at the local level somehow?
So the question stemmed from an answer from a press conference that happened in New York City just yesterday, where it was asked, what is the general process for doing this? Are there legal remedies that are available at the city, county, state level, et cetera, where we would have the ability to move forward with either some form of investigation or prosecution? First, there is some precedent that is important here. There have been instances in the past where there was some form of shooting or an officer-involved killing that took place by federal agents or U.S. Marshals or beyond that did have local and state entities in control. By the way, we're not even talking just about full control here. We're talking about being at the table. We're talking about an investigation that includes the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. And for those that may say that we have a predetermined outcome, we are not the ones that are conducting the investigation. The investigation would be conducted by the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. They are well equipped to do it. They have a long track record of doing thorough investigations and, by the way, coming to results that both saw culpability and a lack thereof. As far as the legal mechanism to do so, I'm not going to jump the gun here and give you a mechanism to prosecute through the county or the state before we actually know what that legal remedy looks like. But I can assure you there is potential there that is available.
Mr. Mayor,
Go here and
you
there.
talked about the presumptive determinations that you feel like the administration has made. They've also been saying, kind of looking ahead to the weekend, what do you make of the administration saying ICE operations will continue, they're sending Border Patrol agents in, effectively doubling down in the wake of this?
Well, I think what this does ultimately is expose the truth. What did they say when they came in here? What has this administration stated as their reason for coming into cities around the country? The reason that they've stated, safety, driving down crime. Well, let our statistics speak for the trajectory. They are clearly driving crime up. Up until last night, we hadn't had any shootings in this city other than ICE. Our city is safe. Our city is welcoming. They are making it less so. And so it is a massive issue that they continue to exert their presence in Minneapolis and beyond. By the way, it's not just our city that is feeling the impact. I know that there are a number of legislators behind me that can speak to that. This administration has also said that they're very pro-business. That's also garbage. I don't have a specific statistic other than anecdotal evidence to point to, but they have had a massive and detrimental impact on a number of corridors throughout our city, including like 80% reductions in customer base along East Lake Street and many other corridors throughout the city. And so bad for business, bad for safety, bad for unity, bad for democracy, and bad for this republic. We want them out. Let's go over here and then go over there.
If there is no full independent investigation of this shooting, what will the effect of that be?
So the question is, if there's no full independent investigation of this shooting, what will the effect be? I mean, I think it further undermines trust in government. The quickest way that you erode trust in government is to refuse to enforce and hold accountable people on laws that you pass. There are laws that are around this. There are standards that are around this. They should have no concern about having a full and transparent investigation here. See where that investigation leads. Look at the facts, collect the evidence. And the fact that they are for some reason concerned about having other, by the way, police involved, other law enforcement involved through the BCA, that is wildly concerning. We're not asking to be at the table in this investigation here. We do think that people that have some willingness to see things clearly are.
The Vice President J.D. Vance said yesterday he blamed the victim, but also accused the media of lying about what happened. What are your reactions?
Well, I think we got to get to a point here where we're not trusting everything that they're saying, and I think you guys they're there at this point. I mean, I think he also asserted that because you work at the federal government that you somehow have absolute immunity from committing crimes. That's not true in any law school in America, whether it's Yale or Villanova or anywhere else. That's not true. If you break the law, if you do things that are outside the area of what your job responsibilities require, and this clearly seems to be at the very least, this is great. At the most is what you heard people say back here. This is a problem and it should be investigated. Yes.
News Nation, a couple of questions for you. First, have you heard personally anything from the Trump administration or the president himself? And also, the administration has pointed to some of your comments right after the shooting as turning up the temperature in this city. Yesterday, we did see some protest that, turned volatile at times. There was pepper spray, there was tear gas. Do you stand by your statements to telling ICE to get out?
They stand by their statements. Do you stand by your statements? Yes. I stand by my statements. We stand by our statements. I'll look back to what I said. What I said was it was reckless abuse of power. Yes, it was a reckless abuse of power. I said that what the narrative that the administration was pushing in the immediacy following this shooting was garbage and false and BS. It was. I stand by every one of those. And, this notion of inflammatory comments, I mean, come on, guys. I dropped an F-bomb. They killed somebody. Which one of those is more inflammatory? I'm going with the killing somebody. I'm going to do a couple more, and then I'm sure there's some other people behind me too. Yeah.
Donald Trump has said that it's clear that Renee Nicole Good was not just trying to run this officer over, that she actually ran him over. J.D. Vance has promised this officer absolute immunity in this case. Is there any hope of an independent investigation while they're in charge?
The way you put it, it's pretty grim. What you just said, and I think, to repeat for everybody, Donald Trump said that Renee ran the ICE agent over. Don't take my word for it. Don't take their word for it. Watch the video from every single angle. I mean, the ICE agent walked away with a hip injury that he might as well have gotten from closing a refrigerator door with his hips. He was not injured. I've seen worse injuries from doing that. And so give me a break. No, he was not ran over. He walked out of there with a hop in his step. And so we just got to get to the point where we're at least operating from, hey, this is we're looking at it on the video screen. This is what we're seeing. Can we all see that he wasn't run over? And then, J.D. Vance, this concept of absolute immunity is pretty bizarre.
How concerning is that, though?
Very concerning. It's extremely concerning. That's why we're asking for the BCA to be part of the investigation.
We have time for about 2 more questions. Someone have a question for someone other than myself?
I'm just wondering if we have a sense for the timeline here, how fast moving this is. Is there a point at which the state loses access completely to the investigation materials? Do
you want to answer that? I don't know the exact timeline, but I imagine the answer is yes. Go for it.
Jamie Long, State Representative, Minneapolis Representative. There have been instances in the past where the FBI has shared information weeks after or even months after. It would be much better if the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension were able to be involved right now. There is time-sensitive evidence. There are memory lapses that happen if you aren't able to interview witnesses right away. And so they were invited by the FBI to participate in the investigation jointly originally. And then for some reason they decided to walk away. We are asking for their full participation as the FBI intended originally. They were clearly told by somebody that they couldn't participate anymore. And when you have the President of the United States, the Vice President, the FBI Director of Homeland Security already coming to conclusions, and then they are told on the ground that they can no longer be involved with local investigators, that causes a lot of concern. And to us, time is important, but they should be involved in the investigation at any time that they're allowed to be.
Can you describe that or talk a little bit about that?
So the question is whether I can talk or describe about interactions with Ms. Good and who she was as a person. It would be completely inappropriate for me to do so because there are other people that really knew her, and I did not.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Nice job. Thank you.
Hi, sorry. I didn't realize how far away you were.
What?